Body portrait number 6 is going to be your body or face in a work of art. I've changed this a little bit where you don't have to be in like a drawing or a famous painting. You could even be in like an art gallery, being a person looking at the art, or even think about like outdoor sculptures. Those would be art too. So you don't have to necessarily Photoshop your face into the Mona Lisa painting. You could be other places. So I know some of you, it's hard to think about like what kind of work of art do I want to be in. And I've seen a lot of similar things. Like people will just Google like paintings. And I have seen this painting about 58 times with the person in it. Now, I realize it's the first painting that comes up, but let's like be a little bit more selective as to where we want to be. So if I see this painting again, I'm probably going to vomit. So let's try to like, think a little bit deeper, maybe scroll a little bit more. So for me, if you're in my painting class, you know that I really like the artist Takashi Murakami. So just to show you this, I could put myself in one of the galleries looking at Takashi Murakami's artwork. I don't have to be in like his painting here. I don't have to make myself look like I'm in there. I could make myself look like I'm standing in this art gallery. Or I could be, standing next to Takashi here looking at his art. Or I could look up like an outdoor sculpture. And I could be standing in one of these scenes. So you don't have to be in a famous painting. You could think of this a little bit more openly and broadly, and you could be in a space looking at art too. Okay. So just wanted to give you guys some options of some things that you can do. So let's say maybe I want to pick this piece here. I can go ahead and copy it. Again, this is more of a landscape than it is a portrait. So in Photoshop, when I make a new document, I'm going to make sure that it is 11 for the width, 8.5 for the height. And I'm going to name this body portrait number 6, 300 for my resolution. And I'm going to edit and paste that image in there, Control T to make this fit the size of the piece of paper. And I am going to crop mine a little bit. Let's say it like so. Now, this particular image is a little bit pixelated, but the reason I chose it is because I can put Hera and I can make her like leaning up against the sculpture. Even though you're not supposed to touch the artwork, I'm just going to make it look like that. I do have her lassoed out already from the first demo that I did today. So I can just drag and drop her right into this scene. Remember to use your eraser tool to clean up any of the edges. Okay, I didn't have a lot of cleanup work to do, thank goodness, just a little bit by the shoes and by the hands. And then I can go ahead and make Hera the right size for this particular scene. So for her, I want to make her looking like she is leaning on one of these pieces of art. Whoops, I accidentally warped her. I'm going to undo that. I forget, with the new Photoshop, you don't have to hold shift when you make things smaller. They automatically change size proportionally. So I need to figure out, like in this scene, how big Hera is. I actually don't know where this sculpture is. I've never seen it in person. So I'm going to have to kind of like make some assumptions as to how big this is. So maybe let's say, she's like this tall. And I'm not going to put her like she's standing on it. Even though I could make her look like she's standing on this sculpture. I'm going to put her in front of it a little bit. So I'm going to make sure that her foot is far enough out to make it look like she's leaning on this piece. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now there's quite a bit of a shadow here. So notice that like this boulder on top of the sculpture, there's a drop shadow underneath it. So I'm going to have to make sure that I do a shadow underneath and to the left of Hera. And it's going to be a pretty dark shadow. So there's a few ways I can do this. I can take my layer 2 and I can duplicate it so that there's 2 of her. And I can go to image adjustments, and I can go to color balance, and I can actually make her a total silhouette. So I can change her color to be completely black. And then maybe I want to lower the opacity so that I can match that shadow color that's happening. So I'm going to have to make this a little bit lower so that it kind of matches that shadow color. Okay, so that's one way I can do a shadow. Now it's over the top of Hera, and I can take my layer 2 copy, which is my shadow layer. I can label it, and I can move this underneath Hera so it looks like it's behind her. So that's another way you guys can make a shadow, especially if it's a pretty strong drop shadow. You can duplicate your image, and you can go to image adjustments, hue saturation, and just bump that lightness all the way to the black side so that you're a pure silhouette of your person. So that's one way to make a shadow. And that shadow looks fairly believable here. Maybe I have to make it a little bit darker. It's a little bit on the light side. Okay, so maybe like so, and that looks pretty good. Now for body portrait number 6, you don't have to apply a filter, but if you want to apply a filter, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not required. So if I wanted to apply a filter, I could. I'll just do a subtle filter just because this picture is a little bit on the pixelated side. I don't really love the way it looks. So maybe I'm just going to kind of like do a little bit of like this palette knife filter on there. I'll apply that to the background. And then I just need to apply a filter to Hera and the shadow. So I'm going to go to filter, filter gallery, and I'm going to do, the palette knife, and I'm going to apply it. And I'm actually also going to do it to the shadow. And I want to see what it looks like. Okay, so I've applied a filter to this because it was pixelated and I didn't really love the way that looked. So this for me would work for body portrait number 6, even though it's not a face or body in a work of art. It's a face, or I'm sorry, it's a body leaning up against a work of art. I would be fine with that. So you can be in a scene with artwork if you want for body portrait number 6. So be open-minded with the art that you choose. Doesn't have to be your typical things like, let's say, I've seen this a lot where people are the Scream. Okay, this has been done a lot. I've seen the Mona Lisa a billion times. You don't have to be in this scene. I have seen The Last Supper a billion times. Okay, that's happened a lot. I've seen American Gothic. I've seen people in this scene a lot. Again, you don't have to do this. So maybe just look up some artists that you find interesting. If you don't know any artists, you can look up the Art Institute of Chicago. They have some great art at that institute. And you can go through and you could be in the Art Institute looking at some of this art here. Okay, so this might be a good resource to look into, the Art Institute of Chicago. You could even be at the Milwaukee Art Museum. Okay, so maybe you're somewhere in the Calatrava. Maybe you are standing outside by the New Love statue. There's just lots of options for works of art. So take a few minutes, look through things that you find interesting and go with that.